compare McCall and Melissa's payment plan. So on the left we have McCall's, and hers is in the form of a word problem. And on the right we have Melissa's, and hers is in the form of a graph. So let's start on the left with McCall. McCall's school raised money through a dance-a-thon. They were able to raise $35 per hour. All right, so this time we just have our 35, and that's how much they make per hour, okay? So the constant rate of change, that means in each hour, $35, it's going to change. It'll be 70 for 2 hours and so forth. So that would be our slope, or our rate of change, our M, 35. The starting point, where does the McCall's money start at for the dance-a-thon? Well, it doesn't say they have any, so we assume that they're going to start at 0. So B would be 0. So let's put this in an equation written in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. All right, so for that we would have y equals 35x, because that would be our slope, times x. And then for the b, I don't need to really put plus 0 because there's nothing going to be out there. So I'm just going to leave it as y equals 35x. So what does the slope represent? The amount earned per hour or I should say raised, not earned, because it's a fundraiser. The amount raised per hour. All right, what is the y-intercept? Starting point. Of fundraiser. So they started out with no money, and then they can make $35 each hour. Let's do the same thing for Melissa now. The graph shows the amount of money earned at Melissa's school for the dance-a-thon. All right, so the constant rate of change and the starting point. Well, we're using a graph, so we have to think back to finding slope on a graph and finding all that. So first let's identify, where does this graph start at? And it looks like it pretty much starts at 0, 0. So I know B is also going to be 0 for this graph. Now to find my slope, I need to find 2 points and calculate my rise and my run. So here is a point, and I had 0, 0. Now there's 2 ways I can do this. I know that I start at 0, 0, and I also see my next point is at 2, 60. So I can either do my rise and run, or I can use my slope formula and calculate it that way. So let's try a little bit of both. So if I rise 60, so my rise over run would be rise 60 and run 2. And that would simplify to 30. Let's try our slope formula with the 2 points that we identified and see if we also get 30 that way. So this will be my x1, my y1, my x2, and my y2. And my formula is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. 60 minus 0 is 60. 2 minus 0 is 2. And 60 divided by 2 is 30. So I got it the same way. So notice on a graph, if you find 2 points, you can just use your formula, or you can just do rise and run. Just make sure you're careful, because this wasn't, when it rose, it didn't rise just 1 bar. Yeah, it was 1 bar, but each bar represents 60. So make sure you're careful on that part. So the rate of change is 30. So the equation would be y equals 30x, and I don't need to put the plus 30 for the b since b was 0. So what does the slope represent? The amount Melissa earned or raised per hour. That's how much her school raised per hour. And that's the starting point of fundraiser. So she also started at 0. So which school is making money at a faster rate? Okay, so which one's making money at a faster rate? So we're comparing the slopes. Well, that would be McCall's, because she has a greater rate of change. or a greater slope, making money faster.